Some animals are friendly and affordable. For example, most people can buy a goldfish, and many can have a kitten or a puppy. But some animals are far from being accessible. These are the most expensive animals in the world. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Now let's get started. Number 1. The Tokco Toucan. I finally finished my list with another bird, but this is one that everyone agrees is worth the price because toucans are amazing after all. It's because of them that we have Fruit Loops, so let's show some appreciation by buying them at a high price, right? Why are you looking at me like that? Regardless of your look, the Tokco Toucan is actually the largest toucan, and the type of toucan everyone imagines when they think of this bird, including a certain cereal mascot. Unfortunately, they only grow to a certain size, about 60 centimeters, but that's still pretty big. And more than that, they have a history tied to the tribes in the areas where these birds live. It's said that the Tokco Toucan is a channel between this world and the spirit world. You can even imagine whether the spirits like Fruit Loops. Whether they do or not, it's easy to understand why it's so popular and why it's worth about $10,000 for a single bird. Number 2. The Lavender Albino Python. As I mentioned before, there are times when an animal's natural genetics give it a unique shape or appearance, and in the case of the Lavender Albino Python, that's exactly what happens, because this is a variation of the ball python that looks completely lavender. Usually, this python suffers from albinism, which causes albino forms in animals, but in this case, instead of being white, it took on a lavender hue. This takes time and sometimes only happens in adulthood. Sometimes they start out lavender and then turn white as they grow. It all depends on the snake itself. The expensive part comes from the fact that many see this rare snake as the perfect pet, and for a time it was one of the most expensive in the world, costing up to $40,000 just to get one. So, is it worth all that? Probably not, but that didn't stop people from spending all that money. Number 3. Limousine Village Posh Spice. No, I didn't make up this name, and it has no real connection to the Spice Girls. But have you ever wondered what it would be like if it did? Actually, this is another record holder for the most expensive cow ever sold. Yes, I'm back talking about cows. Did you really expect me to stop talking about them forever? The difference here is that the previous cow I mentioned was a Holstein, while this one I'm introducing now is a heifer. And yes, her literal name is Limousine Village Posh Spice. You can't make this stuff up. It's publicly registered, if you don't believe me. But how did this cow reach a value of around $300,000? It has to do with her lineage and pedigree. There was no genetic manipulation here. She is a purebred cow from the start, and apparently that was enough to make it worth paying such a high price. The owners were especially happy, which is fair because they just sold an award-winning cow and made a lot of money doing it. Number 4. The Hyasin Macau. Now let's take a look at the Hyasin Macau for a moment. Can you understand why so many people would be willing to pay such a high price for it? Well, it's because it's huge. In fact, it's the largest species of macaw, and because of the shape of its beak, many people think it looks like it's smiling at them, which makes it even more captivating. I kind of see that myself. Well, there are other reasons you might want one of these if you can afford it. They have a lifespan that can exceed 30 years, which means if you want a pet for yourself or your children that really lasts a long time, this might be the right bird for you. On the other hand, it might also tease you for those 30 years, so you have to be prepared for that too. Speaking of appearance, it has a shade of blue that enchants many who watch it, making it highly sought after. Oh, and if you didn't believe the size, they can reach over 1 meter in height, a huge bird, and you might have to pay sometimes $12,000 or more to get one. Number 5. Savannah Cat. You may have heard of this one, especially if you frequent certain circles where the search for exclusive and exotic pets is common. Although cats are among the most popular pets worldwide, in recent years there has been a strong movement to acquire rare, unusual, and exotic species to show off and stand out among cat lovers. A clear example of this phenomenon is the legendary Savannah Cat, which breaks the mold. It is not a natural breed, but rather the result of a carefully controlled crossbreeding between Siamese cats and the African wild serval, making it a true hybrid, a fascinating mix of wild and domestic that captivates with its unique appearance and distinctive behavior. First and foremost, these cats are really large by domestic feline standards, sometimes weighing up to 11 kilograms, depending on the generation you acquire. The further removed from the initial generation, the more domesticated and smaller it tends to be, but it still maintains its exotic and imposing features. What stands out, besides the size, is its striking look: long, elegant legs reminiscent of African savanna felines, and a coat with spots that echo the natural patterns of its wild ancestors. This combination makes them instantly noticeable, considered one of the most beautiful and impressive cats in the world. Besides appearance, the Savannah Cat also has a unique personality. It is known for being very active, curious, and intelligent, traits inherited from the wild serval. These cats love to explore their surroundings, interact with toys, and even learn tricks, making them very entertaining but also challenging for those who want a more laid-back pet. Therefore, they require plenty of stimulation and space to exercise to prevent boredom and destructive behaviors. They are so sought after that even celebrities have jumped on the trend. For example, singer Justin Bieber spent about $35,000 to acquire a Savannah cat. Seems like he caught a different kind of fever, far from traditional pet cats, if you know what I mean. This cat, besides being a status symbol, demands special care due to its hybrid nature and more complex physical and behavioral needs than most domestic cats. Another important point is that owning a Savannah cat involves extra responsibility. Because they are hybrids, some countries and states have specific regulations for their breeding and ownership, and owners need to be vigilant to ensure they comply with all laws and necessary care. Furthermore, it's essential to provide a balanced and suitable diet for the health of these cats, which may include special foods to keep their muscles strong and energy high. Having a Savannah cat is for those who want a unique experience, an exotic pet that combines beauty, size, and a bit of the wild spirit of Africa inside the home, but with all the charm and interaction that only a domestic cat can offer. It's a companion for those willing to invest time, attention, and resources to care for such a special and fascinating animal. Number 6. Python. Snakes are another creature found all over the world, and people are fascinated by them in some way, especially exotic snakes that you won't find in pet shops. That's why they buy wherever they can to have one of these amazing creatures. If you think this market doesn't pay that much, take a look at the rare green tree python that was sold for, wait for it, $1.8 million. But why was it sold for so much? Because it was a rare blue-green tree python, that's right, showing that people really want everything in the rarest colors possible. Someone spent almost $2 million on this python because it was blue instead of green. To be fair, it's very rare for this snake to have that color, but is it really worth that much? Especially when you're going to spend a lot more money taking care of it. Tell me what you think in the comments. Number 7. Pigeon. For some of you living in large cities or even medium-sized ones, you may often see pigeons, and as their nickname goes, they are rats with wings. They are everywhere and are often quite despised. So it might be shocking to learn that some of these so-called rats can be sold for high prices. But how is that possible, you might be shouting? Calm down, control your blood pressure. Although the world in general doesn't like pigeons, many people use them for a unique activity, pigeon racing. It's exactly what it sounds like. A race where pigeons fly from one place to another and are rigorously trained to arrive as fast as possible. Getting the right pigeon can make all the difference between winning and losing, and that's why the pigeon known as New Kim was bought for $1.8 million, a price so high that even the sellers were surprised, especially because she was female, and female pigeons usually sell for less. Number 8. Falcon. Now let's return to the Middle East to talk about another animal that is part of a truly ancient tradition. This has been perfected over generations: falconry. Although it may seem like a lost art in much of the world, falconry was once very common in many nations and served various purposes, including reconnaissance, obtaining food, delivering messages, and much more. For the people of Saudi Arabia, it is a fundamental part of their culture and history. So, naturally, many of them were willing to practice falconry to maintain a connection with their past. But, as you might imagine, getting the right falcons for the job can be expensive. One of these falcons was purchased at an auction for more than $170,000. But why was this one so highly valued? Well, apparently, it had unique visual characteristics, aligned with things I've mentioned before, and it was also prized for having been sold by an actual falcon club, which reinforces the importance of these birds in the region. After all, birds of a feather flock together. Number 9. Palm cockatoo. So far, I hadn't talked about one of the most fascinating species in the animal kingdom, birds. And there's no better way to start than with the impressive palm cockatoo. This majestic and imposing bird is one of the most valued in the exotic pet market, with prices usually starting around $20,000 and in some cases easily exceeding that amount. There is a certain irony in this cockatoo's behavior worth mentioning. If you're looking for a bird that is affectionate and loving from the very first moment, you can forget that idea. The palm cockatoo is known for not being very receptive at the beginning of the relationship. You will need to invest a lot of patience, dedication, and training for it to get used to you, form a bond, and truly develop affection. This process can be long, but the result is usually rewarding. Once this special connection is established, many owners report that the cockatoo turns into a wonderful pet, full of personality, playful, and even affectionate. However, it's important to keep in mind that this bird is extremely social and needs a lot of attention, not only from you but also from other people around. If it stays alone for too long, it can develop undesirable behaviors such as loud screaming and anxiety. Furthermore, the palm cockatoo is known for its large size and especially for its strong and powerful beak. This trait can catch many people off guard because its beak strength is capable of causing serious injuries if handled incorrectly. Therefore, it's essential that the owner has the knowledge and skill to care for a bird of this size and temperament. And of course, considering the very high value and all the complexity involved in caring for this animal, the palm cockatoo is definitely not for those who want a simple pet. It demands respect, attention, and a lot of responsibility. In short, if you're not prepared for this dedication, it's better to think twice before venturing to have one of these. You've been warned. Number 10. Arabian horses. Earlier, I talked about a specific horse that was sold for an absurd amount of money, but just as remarkable is the fact that some horse breeds are known for being incredibly expensive, almost like living works of art. A perfect example of this is the breed aptly called the Arabian horse, one of the oldest and most valued breeds in the world. If you want a basic specimen of this breed, you'll need to spend somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000, which, let's be honest, isn't that absurd for a quality horse. However, when we talk about horses with high pedigree, rare lineages, and champions in competitions, the prices simply skyrocket, reaching figures that impress even the most seasoned in the equestrian market. But why does this happen? What sets the Arabian horse apart from other horses is, first and foremost, its origin and adaptation. They were bred for endurance, surviving in the harsh, arid conditions of the Middle Eastern deserts, where stamina and physical vigor are essential for survival. This trait makes these animals exceptional for long distances and challenges that few horses can face. Additionally, Arabian horses possess remarkable intelligence, a trait not so common in other breeds. This intelligence allows them to work very well with humans, responding quickly and efficiently to commands, and easily adapting to different environments and situations. They also get along harmoniously with other horses and animals, making them ideal for stables and farms that house various species. As if all that weren't reason enough to admire them, they are also extremely beautiful, with an elegant and striking appearance. Many experts and enthusiasts consider the Arabian horse to be, if not the most beautiful, at least one of the most attractive horses in the world. Their compact body, delicate head, expressive eyes, and arched tail give them a unique presence that catches attention wherever they go. Putting all these factors together, you have a kind of horse that is a pleasure to look at, work with, ride, and be around. Whether for equestrian sports, endurance competitions, or simply for those who want a distinguished animal companion, the Arabian horse is a choice that combines beauty, endurance, and intelligence. So, buying one of these is simply a matter of common sense, or should I say, horse sense. After all, investing in an animal with so much history, ability, and charm is something that goes far beyond monetary value. It's a bet on a unique connection between humans and one of the most incredible animals ever domesticated. Number 11. Platinum Arowana. Now, how about another fish story? This time about the platinum arowana, a fish that can be found in various parts of the world, including South America, Africa, Asia, and Australia. Additionally, there are several different species of arowanas. They are very special fish, both because of their shape and their coloration, and they descend from fish that existed in the time of the dinosaurs. That's why they are highly valued. And here's where the real plot twists begin. Because many things are working against the platinum arowana, mainly humans invading its habitat. As a result, the population of this fish is rapidly decreasing. This makes it one of the most expensive fish in the aquarium market, For example, if you at home wanted to get your hands on one, you'd have to pay at least $5,000 for a single specimen, and that's for one that measures only between 10 to 15 centimeters in length. If you want one of the largest, you'll need to shell out at least $15,000. And some people are so desperate to have one that a specimen was sold for an impressive $300,000. Do you realize how many common fish you could buy with that money? Not to mention all the aquariums needed to house them. This all seems quite suspicious, to say the least. Number 12. White lion. Animals come in all shapes, sizes, colors, and styles. And for many collectors or pet owners, the goal is to have one that looks unique, precisely to stand out. After all, anyone can have a common animal, but getting one that is different makes it even more worthwhile for these people. And that's how we arrive at the white lion, an animal that might make you think one thing but is actually something else. You might imagine it's an albino, that is, an animal with white fur due to a genetic deficiency in the skin and cells. But in reality, the white lion is a rare variation of lion that truly exists in the world. The difference is that, unlike albino animals, the white lion does not suffer from the harmful effects of the sun. Finding one of these is extremely rare, and that's why they are incredibly expensive. If you want one, get ready to shell out a whopping $140,000, or even more, depending on who's selling. All of this just to have a lion with a different appearance. Number 13. Dradzas Monkey. Monkeys are a very important part of our world, both on a large and small scale. They are among the most studied animals due to their relevance and because they are genetically very similar to humans. But beyond that, they are exotic animals, so exotic that some people want to turn them into pets. And not in the sense of putting them in zoos, but actually having them at home, letting them watch TV and even rummage through the fridge. This brings us to the Dradzas monkey, which is the most expensive pet monkey ever bought. Compared to other animals on this list, spending $12,000 on a monkey may not seem so crazy, but don't be fooled. Taking care of monkeys is extremely complicated, even on the best days. And more importantly, they are still wild animals. There are countless reports of monkeys that went berserk and attacked their owners and even their owners' friends. So honestly, it's kind of sad to think someone would spend so much money on a monkey instead of choosing a simpler pet that doesn't have a high chance of trying to kill them. But what can you do? It's their money to spend on monkey business. Number 14. Sir Lancelot Encore. We're back to talking about dogs, but trust me, this story is very different from the previous one in every possible way. What I'm about to tell you is 100% real and definitive proof that very rich people sometimes do things that are, let's say, questionable. In this case, a couple named Edgar and Nina Otto had a dog named Sir Lancelot, who was a golden retriever. A wonderful breed, by the way. Unfortunately, like all living beings, he passed away. To cope with the grief and, in a way, honor him, they decided to get a new dog to replace him. Well, sort of. Actually, they spent a fortune to clone the dog. That's exactly what you heard. They literally had their own dog cloned, and that's how Sir Lancelot Encore was born. And no, I'm not joking, these wealthy people really cloned their dog just to have him back again. But things get even worse because this wasn't an impulsive decision like you're probably thinking. They kept the dog's DNA stored for up to 4 years because they had heard about cloning technology and thought maybe one day they could try it. And indeed, after the dog died of cancer, that's exactly what they did. Cloning is kind of taboo in the world, and yet they were willing to spend $155,000 to clone their dog. That's sad they were about his death. Number 15. The koi fish. Now let's talk about fish for a moment. But instead of talking about a fish that was sold by weight to be eaten, which would definitely be tasty, I'll talk about one that was sold for its beauty and the prestige it carries. That was the case of a female koi fish that was sold in Japan for over $1 million. Surprisingly, this happened at an auction. And the most curious thing is that the fish itself didn't originally have an estimated value that high. In fact, the previous bid was much lower until someone named Mrs. Ying Ying from Taiwan raised the bid to take home that beautiful koi fish. And, believe me, I'm serious when I say it was a stunning fish. It had even won awards, and that's exactly why Ying Ying decided to buy it. She wanted to use it to try to win another competition. But what competition, you may ask? Well, the All Japan Koi Show, of course. What other competition could it be? Come on, folks, get with the program. This really makes us question where we're headed as a society when a simple fish can be worth millions of dollars. Number 16. Tibetan Mastiff. There are all kinds of dog breeds in the world today, and they come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. But no dog on the planet matches the size and bulk of the breed known as the Tibetan Mastiff. A dog so huge that if you raise the right specimen, you can make a lot of money from it. And if you don't believe it, know that one of these dogs was sold to a man in China for $2 million. Yeah, someone really did that. Was that person crazy? Maybe. But in return, they got a truly gigantic dog. The Mastiff in question stood nearly 1 meter tall and weighed about 90 kilograms. But there are many big dogs out there, so why is this one so special? Well, for several reasons, and one of them is that this dog is actually quite rare. They were originally bred in Tibet and some parts of Asia. These dogs were intended for hunting and protection, but over time, they became something more, especially for certain people in China. For them, the Tibetan Mastiff is a true status symbol, and they're willing to pay a fortune just to say they own one. In fact, some even shell out $2 million for one. And it raises the question, how much do you think they spend just on dog food? Number 17. Double Diamond. The name is actually the title of the next animal we're going to talk about. But guess what? It's also the name of, well, if you gave up, I'll tell you. It's a ram. That's right. We're talking about the most expensive ram ever sold in history, and get ready, because this will blow your mind. This ram was sold for nearly $500,000, and obviously, it couldn't be just any ram, right? In this case, it really wasn't. He was a Texel ram, originally from the Netherlands, famous for certain characteristics, and in this specific case for its muscular tone and the lean, high-quality meat it produces. Double Diamond wasn't just an ordinary Texel ram, but an extremely special specimen. The breed as a whole usually reaches high prices at auctions, but since Double Diamond was considered exceptional, his value skyrocketed, really by a lot. Even the buyers competing knew he was no ordinary ram. And just like with the previous horse, Double Diamond was mainly acquired for breeding, with the idea of producing even better rams. It might seem strange to spend so much money on an animal, but actually, these creatures are so well cared for that they live to produce the best their species can offer. Number 18. The green monkey. Now let's talk about an animal that many people already know can reach extremely high values if it's the right breed: horses. For generations, people all over the world have paid outrageous amounts for horses, whether for armies, breeding, racing, and much more. And nowadays, you can't just have a horse in a race. You need to have the horse. And for a time, that horse was the green monkey. When he was only 2 years old, he was sold for an impressive $16 million. Yes, that's right, $16 million for a single horse, and he wasn't even that old. The previous owners said he was a once-in-a-lifetime horse, and rightly so, since he was a thoroughbred with an extremely noble lineage. That's where this surreal price came from. Now, if you think that's a lot of faith in a horse that can't always win, it's because you're not thinking like a breeder. Yes, the races were important, but just as important was the genetic potential. The owners could use the green monkey to produce other legendary horses or even sell samples, if you know what I mean, to other breeders interested in taking advantage of this genetic heritage to create champion horses. The world of competitive horses is really huge and, sometimes, kind of crazy. Number 19. The Bluefin Tuna. If you're a fisherman, you probably already know that there are certain types of fish that are worth a lot of money, both in local markets and internationally. Fish are spread across the 7 seas, but that doesn't mean all species are easy to find everywhere in the world. Between locals who want fresh fish and international markets, like Japan's, seeking the best cuts, it's easy to understand why some fish can cost a fortune. But how exactly can a bluefin tuna be valued at $3.1 million? Well, there are a few factors you need to understand. First, this wasn't a regular market sale, but an auction, and auctions can get completely crazy when it comes to price. Second, this wasn't just any bluefin tuna. This particular one weighed over 270 kilograms, and when it comes to fish sales, weight definitely makes all the difference. Still, considering all that, and the fact that the auction took place in Tokyo, where prices tend to be higher, you might still wonder how it reached $3.1 million. But the most curious thing of all is that, after being sold, it was simply cut into pieces and served at the regular price. Number 20. Missy the Dutch Cow. Now, the first one on the list will surprise you. If you don't know what a Dutch cow is, well, it's actually a cow. That's right, the first animal I'm going to talk about is an extremely expensive cow. And you're probably wondering, but how much does this cow cost? Just about $1.2 million. Did you finish your sip choking? Great, because I'm going to explain why this cow is worth so much. The answer is pretty simple. She's not an ordinary cow. When you think of a cow, you probably imagine a normal farm cow. But this Dutch cow's name is Missy, and she was genetically modified. That's right, she's a cow that went through genetic experiments to become better. And how does someone improve a cow? Simple, by making her produce more milk. In Missy's case, she can produce about 50% more milk than a regular cow. That means any farmer who owns this cow not only has access to more milk, but also has an animal that produces much more efficiently. Now imagine a farmer with a dozen of these cows. That would be an insane milk production without having to spend so much buying more animals. Yeah, nowadays farmers use genetic experimentation to create more efficient farm animals. What a world we live in. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed our content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Don't forget to check out other interesting content appearing on your screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video. See you next time.